Let me lean back as we talk about video games a little bit more. Remember, if you like these videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, whatever. It helps the channel, blah, blah. A question I get asked often, and I don't really like answering it because I don't think it's the answer you want, or I don't want to do it because I don't think it's the answer you want, is, Clayton, how do I get better at fighting games? Can you teach me to get better at fighting games? Can you teach me the fundamentals of fighting games? Well, I mean, what is even the fundamental? What is there to really even teach you about a video game fundamental-wise? I mean, let's look at a game like Dragon Ball FighterZ. Take this with a grain of salt. A fundamental idea in Dragon Ball FighterZ might be that your duck hard beats homing dash. Do you need me to teach you that? When you watch a lot of these other content creators, they'll post something as advanced or some bullshit, when a lot of times it's not, right? But they'll post something, it's like, do you really need that person to teach you what they just taught? You could read about it, right? Sometimes this stuff is just background noise, right? It's not really teaching you anything, right? I mean, if you really want to get better at fighting games, you need to be able to first have the experience, which I cannot teach you experience. You have to play to get experience. You need experience playing different games. Just like when people ask, how can you find all these things in video games without playing it? It's like, because I can recognize situations from a game that I've played before and then apply that knowledge there. So just like when you play the video game, you can apply these different scenarios or the ideas. This move reminds me of this move, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get deeper into this too, right? I'm just trying to do a little quick thing right here. You also need to be able to change your perspective on what is even fun. Because inevitably, you would assume you're probably going to run into a situation when you're playing a video game that it's not fun for you. Or you lose, and then you need to find a perspective that what you were doing was fun, but now what you thought was fun isn't winning anymore. So you need to be able to appreciate a different way of playing and keep it fun, right? Let's relate this to something weird. I want to relate this to some old school games. Have you ever played any old school Nintendo game? Let's use Ninja Turtles, for example, right? I'm going to try to relate this again to make it go full circle, full rainbow. People like when I did the full rainbow. Now I'm doing it on purpose. But have you ever played Ninja Turtles 1 for Nintendo? Let's say that, right? Well, if you've ever played Ninja Turtles 1 for Nintendo, I hope that Donatello is your fucking favorite Ninja Turtle, or else you're not going to beat the game. Donatello might be your favorite turtle. You probably won't beat the game anyway. The game is so fucking hard, right? But you better suck some purple turtle cock if you want to beat Ninja Turtles for Nintendo, right? That's the way the game is. So what I would say from that is think of that as like when you're a kid though and you're playing that game, you're like, oh man, I want to play Raphael. At least I did, right? Maybe you like Michelangelo, maybe you like Leonardo, whoever it might be, and you want to have fun with the person that you like. Well, guess what? To beat Ninja Turtles, you got to suck purple turtle cock, or you're not beating Ninja Turtles. That's the way the game works. Okay? Sorry. Let's take this a step further. Think about the arcade game for Ninja Turtles, right? Yeah, I think it was 2, right? It's a beat 'em up, and a lot of beat 'em up games have ideas of this, right? Man, some of these beat 'em up games, like maybe you're a kid, you're like, oh, I'm just doing, punch, whatever it is. Maybe I'll do some jump attacks sometimes, whatever, but I want to actually feel like I'm playing the game. I want to do stuff that I want to do. But if you actually then play those games, you can see if that is just what you're doing in the arcade game for Ninja Turtles, you're actually going to have a pretty hard time beating it, because guess what? Your little jump attack is basically how you beat the game, how you play the game, especially when we're talking about you're not at the arcade, so you don't have infinite quarters to keep putting it in. If you're just playing for Nintendo, you're like, holy fuck, this game actually seems kind of hard for some reason. Until you realize you have to change your perspective that, like, you know what? You're playing it in a way that you think is fun, but you're not going to beat the game like that. You need to accept that jump attack is the shit in this game. This is how you beat this game. So let me relate this to fighting games then. I'm sure we've all played, or maybe, I guess some of you guys just play fighting games all day, right? I guess some of you motherfuckers, right? Sorry. I know some of you guys watch my channel. Sorry, dude. Not me. I'm trying to relate it in other ways, right? But I would assume a lot of people have played other video games, and it doesn't have to be a fighting game. If you want to win in some video games or do better, you need to find a perspective that maybe what you think is fun is not going to accomplish the task at hand. Okay? And so we're talking about fundamentals of how to get better at fighting game. That's what I talk about. You need to be able to change your perspective, and you need to have experience in different games, right? This doesn't go just for finding tech or combo stuff, which, if anything, like I said, I almost feel insulted when people call me a combo guy because I've won tournaments, okay? I mean, again, to suck my own, to jack myself off here for a second, you know, I'm going to save that joke for the FGC on NPC. I got a joke coming up for that. I got a dick joke coming up for it. We won't go there. We're not going to go there. So we're not going to jack myself off yet. Maybe we'll wait till a little bit. But the point is, when you play a lot of different fighting games and you get experience in them, it will help you be able to appreciate different ideas of what is good in a game. And then once you get to the game that you like, maybe then you can apply that knowledge or that experience. Like, again, maybe you don't like old school Street Fighter 2. Maybe you don't like super powerful moves. Maybe you don't like here's a good example. So many years ago when I was playing online again, and I'm sure you could go look it up. I've said before, some of the matches that people say is Damn Die's fake account on YouTube for Super Turbo is actually me. Okay? And you can even go look at the Discords. You know what? For people hate me. You know this. They want to say I got lucky at video games. Damn Die's a pretty famous player in Super Turbo past so many years, right? Some of those fake matches on YouTube that people think is his fake account is actually one of my fake accounts. And if you even go look on Discord, people sometimes are like, is this a Clayton fake account or is this like a ST player? I'm sure if you've ever played Super Turbo, you've heard of him before. Blah, blah. They're trying to guess, right? But the idea is, again, what I'm trying to get at is, I don't really, how should I say this? If you look at new school games, I know I'm all over the place here. A lot of times people talk about things, they want to make even old school games very pre-contrived. You're talking about like, oh, option select this, option select that, blah, 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 whatever. We have this safe jump set up here. We're doing this. This is like set play shit, right? And so maybe this is almost like you need to learn to crawl before you can walk, I think is the English phrase, right? And even when I came back, and I would just randomly play online. And remember when I was a kid, people didn't talk about video games like set play, safe jumps, all this kind of shit. I was still able to beat mostly everyone in Super Turbo online, besides the very echelon of people were only the very top echelon of people could beat me in Super Turbo. And that was just me randomly playing. But it didn't matter how many fucking people, you know, the game has evolved so many years since I played, like, oh, I have my option select here, blah, 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 that. Because they never learned kind of just the basics of old school Street Fighter 2. Never learned just like, you know, this move does this. You know, I talk about games being so pre-planned, having such, you know, this move only does this move only does that. That's kind of like a fundamental thing to, you could even say, in all fighting games. You start to play this game a little bit and you're like, wow, I'm learning the ins and out of this move. I'm not going straight to the safe jump setup. I'm not going straight to this option select. I'm actually learning the bare bones of this game. That something so simple can also be so powerful, right? And a lot of people, you know, you just play them, they know all these crazy setups, but they can't deal with something basic. Even back in the day, in arcade days, you could play Street Fighter 2. If someone didn't know what they were doing in some matchups, with Ryu, you could just mash on duck short. They're like, holy fuck, what do I do? And if they jump, you could just stand short or stand forward, because they just were not, they didn't know how to deal with something so simple, right? That's like a fundamental thing. Like, people are so, you know, obsessed with set play, option select, whatever. They didn't learn they just started trying to walk before they even crawled, you know? And so anyway, the point is, though, you play different games, and so you appreciate a game like Super Turbo where something so basic can be so good or something like that. I talk about it's good to even maybe get your feet wet with a 3D game. So you start to learn a more methodical approach to video games, right? More spacing oriented in some ways. Not that spacing doesn't exist in Street Fighter 2, whatever it is, but you know what I mean? More methodical frame data kind of thing. And Street Fighter 5, like I said, was kind of a mesh of bringing in, you know, trying to get 3D people to play a Street Fighter game. You know what I mean? I've made game theory videos about that, but when you talk about how do I get better at fundamental games, whatever, how do you get better at fundamentally at games, you need to have played a lot of different games. You need to be able to appreciate different perspectives of games. Like maybe I have to be more defensive in this game. Maybe I have to be more offensive in this game. Maybe it's an anime game. Maybe there is more set play or a Marvel, whatever. And then once you get to the game that you like, once you inevitably maybe start to lose or something like that, you then go back to your past experiences and you're like, okay, I remember maybe all this offense here isn't working on this guy. This guy has too solid defense. Now I need to slow it down. And I can appreciate playing a slower, methodical pace because I've already played slower, methodical games. Do you know what I know you got to change your perspective, and I know it sounds weird, and maybe people just think it's just fun to do what they want to do, but sometimes you need to change your perspective of what is fun in a video game if you want to win. And maybe if you can't find that perspective, because again, inevitably fighting games are competitive, right? So there's going to be a winner and a loser. Maybe the game just isn't for you. But when I think of fundamental stuff like that, I think of being able to appreciate all different kinds of fighting games, being able to appreciate different kinds of play styles. And of course, there's always going to be a way that is the technical best optimal way to play the game, the technical best way to play the game, whatever, right? But you need to be able to at least appreciate stuff if you run into a roadblock or some kind of stone along the road to then progress. You need to change your perspective, dude. That's what I think about when people are like, how do I get better fundamentally at games? You need to be able to change your perspective. A lot of times when people tell me, like, because a lot of this stuff that when people teach you online or whatever, you don't need a video for someone to teach you something like this. Like, oh, here's a tiger knee, like that recent video, blah, blah. Do you need someone to teach you a tiger knee? And then they pass it off as advanced. Oh my fucking God, Persona 3 myself, right? I saw this one guy recently too. Oh my God, and the guy was, and I hate using people's names because I feel like I don't even want to give anyone promotion. Doesn't even if it's bad promotion. I just don't like talking about all these other guys because they're honestly fucking pathetic to me, right? But this guy was talking about the secret strategy, and basically he was using a lot of big words. He was using a lot of big words, and I don't know if I can make the face. I was listening to this guy, and I was just kind of like, and I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ, right? I groaned to myself. I could be jacking off. I could be getting my dick sucked. Instead I wasted 10 minutes listening to this guy try to use big English words like he was smart. And basically he's like, you could vanish and some vanishes are safe. Basically, it was basically the gist of it. And I'm like, anyone could go and fucking read that, okay? This is not, this isn't advanced. This is basic. You don't even need someone to teach you this, basically. You could just read it. But sometimes people like listening to background noise. Sometimes you just want to see someone say something, but just like when we were talking, I said earlier, like, oh, a fundamental of the Dragon Ball FighterZ Z might be, oh, well, you can duck hard slash or duck hard a homie dash. That might be an idea to keep in your head, whatever it might be. But when you're talking about really getting better at games, I think you need to be able to change your perspective. And then I also think experience is really important, right? And experience is not something that I can fucking teach you to get you fundamentally better, right? An example would be, I talk a lot of shit about these Dragon Ball FighterZ guys. I'm not impressed. But at the same time, if we're talking about experience, I can tell you, because I don't have this huge competitive ego, these guys, even though they're fucking idiots, and I think you can look what they're saying, dude, come on. These guys are, really, they're not that smart. Let's be honest here, dude. These fucking tech lords, they're pretty fucking retarded, dude. I can't even think of who I have any ounce of respect for tech-wise or anyone who is considered smart in the community. But I can say with no ego, you know what? They would probably beat me in Dragon Ball FighterZ because I don't play. And there's no shame in the game for me saying that, but that's what it gets to too. How do you get better at a game? You probably got to play it. A lot of stuff is probably muscle memory. I could play Dragon Ball FighterZ. I'm sure someone could just do whatever the shit they would want them to be. Because I don't have any muscle memory in the game. That first year of even making those combo videos, I played the game so little, I said I kept forgetting what the buttons were because I don't play. Right? When you start to play a game, you start to have muscle memory, starts to become a part of your idea. You start to get used to situations. That's a fundamental thing. Like, okay, I'm ready for this situation. I'm ready for this situation. I'm ready for this situation, right? Just like, well, how can you do the stuff you do in Guilty Gear? Well, because I made a combo video in it, right? I said before, why don't you play Guilty Gear anymore? It's online. Well, first of all, I think you guys are confused. I don't think people realize what it's like to actually be sick. This is not this internet slang, mental illness, blah, 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 blah. This isn't some mental illness. I live my life in and out of a hospital, dude. You know what I mean? This is not like, I don't play video games all day. Even when I was winning tournaments, and actually that was another point I need to get to too. I was not playing video games a lot. Again, I'm rambling all over the place here. This is a long video. When we're talking about experience and perspectives on games, when I was winning all these tournaments back in video games, and I know people don't want to hear this, I was not playing a lot of video games. Or not fighting games. RPGs, yes I was. RPGs, I was. Yes I was. My English is terrible again, right? So what I would do when I would go to tournaments, and I said in that first year of disability, I won every single tournament I went to besides Evo. People probably don't remember that and they want to act like it didn't happen. Well, it fucking happened. And do you think I was practicing all the time? No. I really got into RPGs. I was very depressed, you know what I mean? I don't want to say very depressed. I should say I was down about being sick because I was very fucking scared. Am I going to die? I mean, it's fucking... And I really regret, I do regret playing video games. I regret even, but I guess I was making money, so... it's hindsight is 20/20, I guess, thinking about that shit. But the point is, when I would go to tournaments, and this is talking about changing your perspective on something, since I was not practicing a lot, there are certain ideas that I know from playing other fighting games that you realize are annoying to fight versus, right? So when I would go to tournaments, I would play in a specific way that is not necessarily only possible in this video game, right? I would play in a way that I knew that I could execute the game plan well enough without practicing it, and I knew it was a game plan, so to speak, that would be good enough to make me win more than not, right? Because you play different games and you learn sort of what ideas of tactics are kind of annoying to fight against, right? I hope you get what I'm getting at here. So I had to find a perspective that, you know what, I'm not practicing enough to do all this crazy shit, but can I do something that I know is going to be annoying enough from my years of playing video games in the past that a regular person is going to have problems beating this more than not? And that's what I would do when I would play. And luckily enough, it won me a lot of matches and it won me tournaments many times. So, I forgot what I was getting at, but that's changing your perspective. What was I talking about? When people say, how can you do the impossible combo? Because I had done combo videos for it, so I had to learn it, right? You know, you have to learn things. That's a fundamental thing. How do you get better at a game? You're just going to have to practice. You're going to have to execute. Eventually, at some point, you're going to have to practice. I can't teach you to practice. You know what I mean? I played video games, I've got my feet wet with many different games. So there's a little bit of muscle memory. And I've talked about this before. One of the hardest things, I think, is because I don't play a lot of video games, is then it's good to play a lot of different video games so you can get a good perspective on different things and then appreciate different ideas. And then the potential problem is once you get to the game that you want to play, then sometimes it takes yourself a little bit to put yourself in that mindset of that game, how the game works, right? Like Karma's Revenge is a good example because Karma's Revenge, I always say that when you play Karma's Revenge, you got to get ready to trust the process, that a lot of special moves are complete bullshit, and you got to trust the process of the way footsies works in Karma's Revenge is you are going to be mashing on jab like a motherfucker because there's a lot of ABC footsies in Karma's Revenge. It's like Street Fighter 2 on fucking steroids, okay? And sometimes, like I can't fucking remember the last time I played Karma's Revenge, but when I theorize about playing the game again, I just don't feel like mashing on jab. I'm old. My hands don't work as well as they used to, dude. But, I mean, that'd be an idea. It's like, I got to trust the process. I got to get ready to start doing this the entire fucking match, right? Just like when you get to a different game. If I were to play Dragon Ball Fighter Z, again, I don't play it, but I'm sure if you played Dragon Ball Fighter Z and then you stop playing for however long, you probably would be a little bit slow at teching Dragon Rushes for a while. You have to get your feet wet. I got to remember to start looking out for homie dash, whatever it might be. Some of this stuff is just practice, dude. Like, this is not stuff I can teach you, right? The Kai Impossible combo, I have some muscle memory. I taught my fingers how to do it when I made those combo videos, and now it's a little bit there. So it just has to get warmed up. A little bit of rub there, a little bit of whatever there, blah blah blah. The come hither thing, not sexual. Please don't flag the video. But yeah, you know, people talk about fundamental shit in video games. A lot of fundamental shit that people ask to be taught, you don't actually need to be taught. It's there. It's a matter of you actually just practicing it, then having, you know, a different perspective on if something that happens in the match is going to be fun for you to deal with. The countermeasure, is it going to be fun for you to deal with, right? You know, and sometimes people, like, even when people talk about game, having people coach them and all this kind of stuff, like, what are they really coaching you for, dude? A lot of this stuff is just, again, I know that's not the answer maybe people want because it's not like a fun answer, but it's the most real answer. You need to be able to change your perspective. Some of it just comes from experience. Some of it you just need to practice. That is the best fundamental advice I can have to get better at a fighting game. Okay? Does that make sense? I don't know.